Warning: the following video contains explicit language, which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Are you ready? Hey everybody, this is Jeff. You're watching the show. Hope you had a great day. It was kind of cold and a little bit windy here, partly cloudy, but wasn't too bad of a day. I had to go get some blood work done, and they took some blood right there out of my arm. Christ, I mean, they do a better job of doing that at the VA clinic than they do at the outpatient thing they got for just everybody else. You know, they sent me down there because I'm going to get a CAT scan done at the St. Joe's Hospital on Thursday, and they have to make sure that your kidneys or liver or whatever is good enough to take that dye that you got to drink or something, you know, so they can show up on the scan. So, so anyway, they got to do that. They want to check out my lungs. I guess the doctor felt that there was, you know, some kind of, you know, oddity about my lungs, so he wanted to check them out, make sure they're okay. So anyway, today there's been a lot of talk about the election results, which, you know, I guess is not unusual, but this aspect of it is because I'm hearing more Democrats bitching about, oh, we should have a recount, or, you know, there was an election irregularity here, there was one there, you know, and, you know, in my mind, I'm saying, well, that was to be expected, okay? And that was the reason why I was trying to tell people to get out in mass and vote, okay? Because if there was any cheating going on, the sheer number of Democrats voting would negate anything that the right wing would have done to try to cheat, okay? But since 17 million fewer voters went out and voted this year, okay, that tells me right there that, you know, they're just, you know, the energy just wasn't there for people to vote. Matter of fact, that meant some Democrats stayed home and didn't vote at all. So they didn't heed that warning. They didn't vote en masse like they should have. And if Kamala had won, nobody would be talking about recounting the votes, even if they knew about the irregularities that are going on. So I had this video here that Steve Shives put out, and he talks about that and the you know, how logical would it be to try to say that they cheated, and is it even possible? So let's go to that video, and I'll comment here on the other side.
Kamala Harris lost the presidential election. The Democratic Party lost control of the United States Senate, and when all the remaining races have been called, in all likelihood, it will also have lost its chance to take control of the United States House of Representatives. Or did it? Because what if that's not what happened? What if Kamala Harris and the Democrats didn't actually lose this election? What if this election was stolen from them by a massive nationwide conspiracy of voter fraud that canceled and threw out and negated millions, maybe even tens of millions of Democratic votes, votes that would have carried Kamala Harris to the White House instead of Donald Trump. Is such a thing possible? I mean, yeah, I guess technically it's possible. Is that what happened? Yeah, no, probably not. Yesterday I put up a video where I talked about incredulity. And there's a lot of incredulity floating around following the result of the presidential election, but it's not just incredulity. There's also a lot of denial. And it's denial from some people on our side. It doesn't seem to be a lot of people, but there is a noticeable number of folks on our side, folks who voted for Harris, folks who voted for the Democrats, generally speaking, in this election, who are not happy about the election result and are saying, you know what, she didn't actually lose. It was stolen. And I just want to make it clear right now. I am not against recounts. I am not against investigating irregularities in the votes. I think all Democratic candidates, up to and including Kamala Harris, should call for recounts where they think it's appropriate, where they are legally entitled to them. I think every single vote should be counted. I think all avenues to verify the result of the election that are legally available should be pursued and should be exhausted. And all irregularities and instances of potential fraud should be investigated as thoroughly and as quickly as possible. I believe all of that. But, and I know this may be difficult for some of you to hear, our side getting fewer votes than we expected to get is not that kind of irregularity. Now, if it's our side got fewer votes than we expected because, and after that, because there is something suspicious, something potentially nefarious, something illegal, then yes, of course, that demands an investigation and that should be investigated. But is that where we're at? I mean, some people think so. I've seen all across social media quite a few anecdotal reports of voters in swing states like Pennsylvania, like Wisconsin, like Michigan, who voted by mail or who voted on maybe a provisional ballot. And you can check your ballot status online, and they've checked their ballot status online, and it still says, like, up until Election Day and even after Election Day, it said that their ballot had not been counted yet, that their ballot had been rejected for some apparently unjustified reason. And again, just like I said with Democratic candidates pursuing recounts and pursuing methods to verify the result, if you are a voter in that situation and your vote doesn't seem like it was counted and it should have been, absolutely follow that up. Make sure that your vote is counted, and people who are in charge of elections in all of these districts, they should make sure that all voters who have an opportunity to cure an uncounted ballot should be given that opportunity right up until whenever the deadline is, if it hasn't passed yet, that every single vote should be counted. Every single vote should be counted. And I'm not for a moment suggesting otherwise, but are there enough of those instances of people's votes being miscounted or being uncounted wrongfully? Are there enough examples of that from all of the swing states, from all over the country, to overturn the result and to make Donald Trump no longer the president-elect? I don't think so. Are there enough examples of that to suggest that there was some kind of massive nationwide voter fraud effort to steal the election for Donald Trump? Again, I don't think so. But examples like that of votes going uncounted that should apparently have been counted, those are not the only reason why some people believe that the election was stolen, that Trump cheated or something like that. There's also the fact that in many districts, in many states, Democrats won or performed very strongly, even overperformed what the polling suggested they would further down the ballot. Like Democrats won local races and state races, Democrats won in the congressional races, even Democrats won in the United States Senate races. But Trump won at the presidential level. And there are many folks on our side that are just refusing to accept that that is possible, that are saying, no, that's not the way that should go. Why would somebody vote for Democrats all the way down the ballot and then suddenly vote for Trump on the presidential election? That doesn't make any sense. Why would that happen? And all I can tell you is it doesn't make any sense to me either, but it happens all the time. People do that. It doesn't make rational sense to me. It seems to me that to do that, to split your ticket in that way, to vote for Democrats further down the ballot, but then to not vote for the Democratic candidate for president, that is an incredibly asinine thing to do. But people do it. People do it. I wish they wouldn't. I don't think it's a good thing to do, ever. But people do it. So the fact that a lot of people apparently did that is not evidence that the election was stolen, is not evidence that those ballots were somehow manipulated or fucked with. So all of those people, they really voted for Harris, but the voting machines were hacked and it changed the result to make it look like they voted for Trump. Occam's razor, folks. Occam's razor. The simplest explanation that accounts for the observed facts is usually the correct one. You do not need to assume the kind of massive nationwide voter fraud effort that some of you are imagining to account for the observed result. It's far more likely that a bunch of people had their heads up their asses and voted a split ticket. When all of the votes have been counted, and the last time I checked, around 98% of all the votes nationwide had been counted. So we're not quite there yet, but we're almost there. And it looks extremely likely that when all of the votes have been counted, Vice President Kamala Harris will have received somewhere around 9 million or 10 million fewer votes than Joe Biden did in 2020. And that sucks. And that makes me angry. Anyone who voted for Biden last time and didn't vote for Harris this time, you are without excuse. I'm sure you have lots of reasons why you did it. I'm sure you have lots of reasons that to you seem like good reasons why you voted for Biden last time, but you didn't vote for Harris this time. This time, instead of voting for Harris, maybe you voted for Trump. Maybe you voted for some third-party candidate. Maybe you left the presidential line blank on your ballot and voted down ballot but didn't vote for anybody for president. Or maybe you just didn't vote at all. To everybody who did any of those things, you did the wrong thing. You did the wrong thing. And I'm sure you have your reasons, but you don't have any excuses. Shame on every last one of you. But that's what happened. The election wasn't stolen. Elon Musk didn't use Starlink to hack the voting machines. None of the other straw-grasping conspiracy theories that I've seen being proposed by certain people on social media happened either. If evidence to the contrary is discovered, if it turns out I'm wrong about this and there's an investigation and it turns out, holy shit, the election was stolen, all of those tens of millions of votes that look like they disappeared from, compared to 2020, it turns out they were there and they should have been counted and they weren't. If it turns out that's what happened, then, hey, great. I mean, not great that it happened, but great that it was discovered. And if it turns out that that's what happened and there's some way to overturn the result and to make Kamala Harris the president-elect instead of Trump, hey, I would be so thrilled if that happened. You have no idea. I would be so happy if that happened. But is there a single reason at this time to realistically expect that that will happen or to believe that that should happen? No. There isn't. There just isn't. No matter how much you might wish for that, no matter how much you might hope for that, there just isn't any reason to believe that. Here's what happened. We lost. We lost. We lost the Electoral College. We lost the nationwide popular vote. Now, it wasn't a landslide, despite what Trump and his cronies and his supporters will try to convince you of. It wasn't a landslide. It wasn't a blowout. It wasn't some kind of generational mandate to Trump to do whatever he wants, although he'll try to do that anyway, and he'll certainly claim it as such, but that's not what it was. We lost. We lost not in a landslide, but we lost decisively. And that is an unwelcome reality. It's an unwelcome reality for me. I wish that it were not true. I had hoped very much going into Election Day that it would not be true, but here we are. And if we want to win next time, we have to start here. And we have to accept reality before we can move on and hopefully build to a better result. Because the thing is, I'm not worried about these conspiracy theories. I'm not worried about the election having been stolen from us because I have seen no evidence to suggest that. I'm worried about people on our side who put in work this time. People I've seen in the comments of my videos, and I'm sure that there are many more people sharing similar stories all over social media. People who said, this time, I went out and knocked on doors for Harris or for some other Democratic campaign. And I've never done that before. People who said, this time I phone banked. And I've never done that before. People who said, this time I donated money to the campaign. I've never done that before. People who said, I wrote postcards, like me, who've never done that before. I'm worried about those people who put in that extra work, who tried their best to make this happen. I'm worried about all of them being discouraged by this loss. Or if they believe these conspiracy theories and they believe that the election was stolen, allowing themselves to be discouraged by that and allowing themselves to be convinced that, well, it didn't make any difference anyway. They stole the election from us. Nothing I did mattered. Nothing I did ever would have mattered. It's completely futile to get involved. I'm just not going to get involved next time. That's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of this result. Increasing apathy among progressive-minded voters, because that is our greatest enemy. And that is the obstacle that we need to get over, I think, more than any other obstacle. The Democratic Party has been obsessed for decades with trying to flip Republicans. And I have said for years, and I'm by no means the only one, people way, way smarter and way more in the know than I have said this same thing, that trying to flip Republican votes in order to win presidential elections is a waste of fucking time. Democrats cannot convince enough Republicans to vote for them for it to make a difference, in most cases. I have always believed it is a far more fruitful strategy to try and energize and motivate the progressives, the people who already largely agree with us, who don't vote, to get off their asses and vote for our candidates. That would be a far more successful strategy. Convince progressives that they should vote for the Democratic Party than trying to talk Republicans into voting for us, and in doing so, turning those progressives off even more. It's a waste of time. It's self-destructive. And my fear is that this result, and even some of these conspiracy theories saying, oh, it was pointless anyway because they just stole it from us, will make those progressives who are already apathetic and already reluctant to even vote, let alone phone bank, write postcards, canvass, etc., etc. It will convince them that they were right all along and they were right to sit it out, and they will continue to sit out, and they will not participate and not help us next time. And that is really bad news for our side. So look, here's the bottom line. Losing sucks. You don't have to tell me. And I'm not for a moment trying to deny that. Losing sucks. It always sucks. Nobody wants to lose. And losing is discouraging, especially when you lose at the level we just lost to the kind of fucking people we just lost to. I get the frustration. I get the feeling of hopelessness. I get the feeling of futility. I even get the disbelief. The incredulity that I've been talking about this week. I get the emotional place where that originates. For sure. I understand where that comes from. And like I said before, I believe absolutely we should verify this result. We should call for recounts where appropriate. We should make sure that this wasn't a stolen election, just in case. However, barring some truly earth-shattering evidence to the contrary, we need to accept what actually happened, because denial doesn't help us, and denial doesn't affect anything that happened. But if that denial results in even more discouragement and disengagement and apathy among progressive voters next time, it could affect what will happen. And that's what I find truly unacceptable, and you should too.
All right, so he brings up some valid points, I think, in that debate over whether we should have a recount. Now, here's the thing: I got an ad from the Harris campaign saying that Kamala would like to do a recount, but she needs a donation from everybody about $250. I'm like, what? You don't need $250 to do a fucking recount. All right. To me, that's really not a good way. I mean, she conceded the election. She conceded the election. It's too late now to start, saying we need to do a recount. Let me tell you why. Because right now, Supreme Court's run by the Republicans. Congress run by the Republicans. And we got at this moment, we got a razor thin, lead in the Senate. If they choose to fight any recount all the way to the Supreme Court, where the hell do you think that's going to go? There's no way that, even if there was a smoking gun here, the big evidence that, Steve was talking about, even if they found something like that, do you really think they're going to allow it? Of course not. Because Kamala conceded. She gave up and admitted she lost. That's it. Game over. If she wanted to do a recount, she never should have said, that I'm given, I concede the election. Never should have done that. Just like when Al Gore said, I don't agree with the Supreme Court, but I'm going to abide by what they said. Once he did that, the election was over. Okay? It's over. The Democrats need to just suck it up, get back on their fucking bike, and start riding again. Okay? That's the way we have to deal with this. Don't fall into the trap that MAGA fell into by believing their own lies. Okay? They searched, and they searched for evidence to show that Biden had cheated. Couldn't find a goddamn thing. You want us to go down that same fucking road, you can do it on your own time. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to believe it. Okay? And even if there was, like I said, big evidence to show that there was massive cheating going on, and it would have to be big, my friends, because you got to think about how many votes they'd have to flip in order to give Kamala the win. And then, since she conceded, I don't think she could actually claim the victory. So, my friends, that is just a dark alley to nowhere. Don't go down that road. What's fueling that is angst. Sour grapes. People don't like to lose. Nobody likes to lose in a fucking election. Nobody. Okay? We all felt energized by Kamala Harris. We were all given hope that, we were going to win. All right? And to have that shattered, it causes all kinds of emotional response. Anger, sadness, denial. All kinds of things come into play with that. And what I'm saying, and what Steve is saying, is get beyond that. Get over that. Okay, we can't afford to stay in that fucking moment in time forever. We still got midterms coming. We still have to get back on our feet and start running again. Okay? And what I said yesterday, stand still. Let Trump have his goddamn presidency. Let let the Republicans have the Senate, the Congress, and the Supreme Court. Anything that goes bad now, it's going to be totally on them. The Democrats are going to be completely innocent of anything bad that happens from here on out now. Okay? Any bad economy, it's Trump. Bad, international problems, it's Trump. Okay? No fucking, you cannot, the Republicans do no longer have the high ground. They can't sit here and say, oh, they did it. No, because we're not in control anymore. You guys are. You're the ones running the fucking show. So any mistakes that are made, it's on you now. MAGA, you're the ones that's going to have to shoulder the responsibility. And believe me, you're going to be looked at as the villain in the next 2 years. People are just going to turn their backs on you. And some of your own people are going to turn their backs on you. You know? You think this is all fun and games. You think this is all, about turning country into a goddamn dictatorship. But dictatorships don't last. Okay? You took away 250 years of democracy in this country in one election. Do you really think that's going to last? Do you really think this country's going to give that up so easily? Think about that for a minute. It doesn't matter what you think. You got to look at it from the other side. A good tactician would. You got to put yourself in the enemy's shoes and find out what they're thinking. And believe me, like I said before, Democrats outnumber Republicans by a huge, huge margin. When you figure in all the people that are registered Democrats, there's way more of them than there are Republicans. So you guys are going to have an uphill battle trying to stay on the good side of people in this country with the ideas you have. All right? When more women start dying from unneeded deaths, due to pregnancies or whatever, more anger. Okay? More resentment to the people that put the bans out there. That means you. Okay? When people's families are all destroyed because some people got rounded up and shipped over, across the border, more anger. And that's going to be against you, MAGA. Okay? When the price of food goes up because Trump put tariffs out there, and it's harder for you to make ends meet. More anger. And it's all going to be on you, MAGA. Okay? You think about that. And I ain't talking about just one or two people getting mad at MAGA. I'm talking millions. Because this is going to affect, millions of fucking people's lives here. What you guys voted for. Your racism and all that stuff ain't going to be enough to hold your party together. When people can't buy anything, and food stamps won't cover it, good luck. Good luck, because you guys are, you're going to lose. You're going to fucking lose. Your ideas are not going to propel you to stardom. There's already signs of people showing buyer remorse right now. They said the day after the election, Google had a huge spike in the search for the word tariff. A little late after the election, but now people are worried. What does that mean? Of course, that's what happens when you don't understand things. You're not smart enough to understand. No, they had to Google it, but they waited too late to Google it. But they found out what a tariff is and how it works, and now people are starting to shit themselves because they thought it was such a good idea when it came out of Trump's mouth. But now, people on the news, the media, finally is out there talking about how this is actually going to hurt the economy, and how and this is getting out there. Now people are worried. Again, more anger directed at you, MAGA. And forget about Elon Musk. Okay? That son of a bitch isn't going to do a goddamn thing for you either. Okay? That crazy son of a bitch. Just forget about him. That guy shouldn't even be involved in politics any more than Trump should be. And I hope this is a lesson for people in this country to stop voting for billionaires. Okay? It's bad enough we got money in politics, but the people we put in power being billionaires, you know what that means, okay? You know what that means. These people don't care about your interests. They're there because they're there for the benefits of altering the market to make more money for the rich, you know? And believe me, the tax cuts that he's proposing for the wealthy is just beginning. We're going to end up paying for that because when taxes are reduced on the rich, they have to go up on the poor in order to make up for the difference. And that's what's going to happen. All right, so let me go to commercial break. We'll come back here for some more info here in the video.
This is me.
This is me.
This is me!
This is me.
I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Ruth McLaughlin, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you. Original.
Mr. Cow.
Yes?
How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
I don't know. I always end up biting. Ask Mr. Fox, for he's much cleverer than I.
Mr. Fox, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
Why don't you ask Mr. Turtle, for he's been around a lot longer than I. Me? I bite.
Mr. Turtle, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
I never made it without biting. Ask Mr. Owl, for he is the wisest of us all.
Mr. Owl, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
A good question. Let's find out. 1, 2, 3.
If there's anything I can't stand, it's a smart owl.
How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop? The world may never know.
When you drive to Wendy's and order a single, you get more beef than the Whopper or the Big Mac. At Wendy's, you never have to ask, where's the beef?
How stupid are the people of Iowa? How stupid are the people of the country?
We have people that are stupid. There's something wrong with them. And there's something wrong with her, too. She's slow, low IQ. She's a low IQ individual. Low IQ individuals. Well, you know, you think they're stupid, and they are really pretty dumb. Stupid. She didn't know where the hell she was going. Does she drink? Is she on drugs? Some of the dumbest people I've ever met in my life. A terrible, stupid person. And he's stupidly, because he's a stupid guy, too. He's a stupid son of a bitch. We have a guy who's a dumb son of a bitch.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay?
The Democrats say, please don't call them animals. They're humans. I said, no, they're not humans. They're not humans. They're animals. Root out the communists, Marxists, fascists, and the radical left thugs that live like vermin within the confines of our country.
But do you believe in punishment for abortion? Yes or no, as a principle? There has to be some form of punishment. For the woman? Yeah, there has to be some form.
Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face. Now, we're a failing country. We are a failing nation. We are a nation in decline. We are a nation in decline. We are a failed nation. The American dream is dead.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. And some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it. Write for Pollution Booklet, Box 1771, Radio City Station, New York.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it.
It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Okay, I have another video from Raw News and Politics, and let's go to that, and the topic will be about some magaloons getting arrested for voter intimidation and other things. So let's go to that video here.
Welcome to the show. I have a bunch of stories to share with you about more election-related arrests. So these were before the election, some after the election. So this is what's going down. Before the election, Florida man Nicholas Farley was arrested. He was charged with voter intimidation and corruptly influencing an election. This is because he yelled anti-Semitic slurs at a campaign worker named Lily Loudon. So the prosecutor hit Farley also with hate crimes, or with an enhancement for hate crimes, I should say. But Loudon said that Farley also drove his car at her. He sped up, she said, and then at the last minute he swerved. And she said he came pretty close to her body, pretty close to hitting her. Now, his remarks were recorded, but only in audio. So, I'm not sure if anyone caught everything on video and him allegedly swerving his car at her. But, if not, Farley obviously could end up getting just a slap on the wrist. I mean, we're talking about Margaritaville here, after all. So he also already got a pass on another alleged racist attack, and this was just earlier this year. So check this out.
We learned West Palm Beach charged Farley in July with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon after an African-American man said Farley stated some kind of racial slur. Then when Farley approached him, he saw what Farley was holding in his hand and was pointing at him was a gun. Those charges were dropped. The alleged victim tells us by phone it was because authorities did not have the proof that Farley actually pointed the gun at him.
So this guy sounds like a ticking time bomb. And, now with Trump's win, guys like this, bigots like this, are only going to feel even more emboldened. We're seeing that already. I have more videos for you today that clearly prove that. So anyway, I will stay on that story. I'll let you know what happens. I also have a story to share about two women who were arrested for stealing and casting other people's ballots. And guess what? They're not Democrats. Imagine. So here's the deal. Colorado residents Vicki Lynn Stewart and her friend Sally Jane Maxidon, I think is how you pronounce it, they've been arrested. They've been charged with forgery, identity theft, and attempting to influence a public servant. Stewart, who, by the way, was a United States postal worker until this happened, and she is an unaffiliated voter, by the way. She is accused of conspiring with her Republican friend, the woman named Maxidon. They were trying to, quote unquote, test the Arizona state signature verification system, the Colorado verification system. So they're accused of stealing a bunch of ballots. They filled them out and then they submitted them during this election, just this general 2024 election. And the prosecutors are saying it could be as many as 20 ballots. However, the charging documents mention 16 victims. So I don't know where the discrepancy is or if they haven't just nailed it all down. But unfortunately, 3 of the ballots that they submitted made it through. So there was an election judge who failed to forward these ballots to an additional review. And so they can't be pulled. They cannot be removed from the vote count because evidently the way a lot of the systems work, a lot of the election systems in this country, there's an automated system. It flags the signatures if they look off. Well, the election judge is supposed to review this. He did in this instance, but he allowed them to pass through. And according to the Colorado Sun news outlet, the judge has now been reassigned. But as I said, it's too late because of the way the ballots are processed and handled after they've been processed. So in, I believe, most of the country, once a ballot moves through the system and it's counted, the voter is basically anonymous. So there is no way to trace a specific ballot to a specific voter. It can't be tied back to that voter. I don't know why. I believe in California, there's like a barcode so they know who it came from. I'm not 100% positive on that, but I believe so. And here's how these women were caught. So in October, election officials contacted the real voters and they said, hey, we need you to come in and what they call cure your ballot, right? So if the signature doesn't match, the voter can come in and they can explain, oh, you know what, I have carpal tunnel, or, I'm getting older, my hands don't move the way they used to, or whatever. And they can come in and they can, quote unquote, cure their ballot, prove that yes, this was in fact me. I did sign it, or someone else signed it on my behalf, whatever the case may be. So when they reached out to these voters, the voters said, I haven't cast my ballot. So what they did was they got fingerprints off of the ballots and they checked the law enforcement database and they found Maxidon. Because guess what, as we should know for a Trump supporter, she's another one of Trump's fine people with a criminal history. In 2008, Maxidon was arrested on suspicion of possession of materials to make meth, possession of a controlled substance with the intent to sell that controlled substance, and possession of a controlled substance. Then another arrest the day before. So there's that case. I will stay on that as well, let you know when I hear more. There was another arrest also the day before the election. There is a Democratic House member named Jared Moskowitz. You may have heard of him. He issued a statement saying, quote, the individual in question was arrested not far from my home. He is a former felon who was in possession of a rifle, a suppressor, and body armor. Found with him was a manifesto that, among other things, included anti-Semitic rhetoric and only my name on the target list. There are many other details that I will not disclose as I do not want to interfere with an ongoing investigation. So Moskowitz, you guys might know, he's an outspoken critic of Trump, of the Republicans, and their true weaponization of Congress against Trump opponents. Sounds like another MAGA maniac, another guy with a criminal history out there, doing something crazy for Trump. So I do have one arrest to report from the left. There was, on election day, a 25-year-old Michigan resident named Isaac Sissel who was arrested for threatening to kill Christian conservatives. So Sissel apparently repeatedly posted on Reddit. He was using names like shoot up Trump, I will shoot Trump, planning to shoot Trump, a bunch of things like that. One of Sissel's posts read, quote, I shall carry out an attack against conservative Christian filth in the event Trump wins the election. I have stolen AR-15 and a target I refuse to name so I can continue to get away with my plans. Without a specific victim or ability to find the place I hid the gun, there's not a thing the FBI can do until I complete the attack. He also said that Trump is a, quote, piece of shit that should have been assassinated and that everything would be better if Trump was dead. I mean, show me the lie. But anyway, Sissel never threatened Trump. But if someone else was going to, do something to him, he found out that somebody else was going to assassinate him, Sissel said that he had a quote unquote duty not to intervene. He did not have a weapon when he was arrested, so he could be correct about that. I mean, I don't know what they can really get him on, but he does have a criminal history as well. He has a criminal history of stalking and harassment. There was another Michigan resident that was arrested on Election Day. This is not necessarily related to the election, but it is politically motivated. And I think this guy is on the right, at least it seems like it from some of his posts, but we'll see. So 28-year-old Austin Olson tried to enter the Capitol on November 5th, and officers said that Olson smelled like he had doused himself in gasoline. And they believe that he was planning to set himself on fire because he was carrying a flare gun, a torch lighter, 2 bottles of fuel, and a manifesto that basically outlined his anger about the Biden administration's response to the Israel-Hamas war. So Olson has been charged with possession of a prohibited weapon, unlawful activities, and disorderly conduct. And there were many political videos that they found on his YouTube and Rumble channels. In one video, he said, quote, "If my persecution and death means the truth lives, I'll pick up my cross." And then on social media posts, basically, like I said, it indicates an alignment with MAGA, with the right wing. So Olson was espousing anti-Semitic views. He talked about the Great Replacement theory, which is definitely a right wing thing. For those who don't know, it's a racist belief that minorities are being used basically by the Democratic Party to replace white people. Just sick people. Anyway, I don't get this. I mean, several other people have already done what he was going to do, or what it appears that Olson was planning to do. I mean, I agree with the critique of our government's role in the murder of tens of thousands now of innocent Palestinians, including children, babies. But this doesn't help, right? I mean, numerous men have now self-immolated. Nothing changed. So, some random person thinks that because they lit themselves on fire, everything's going to change. The government's going to rethink their position. Save your lighter fluid. It's not going to help. They're not going to do anything different. So, unfortunately, AIPAC has a lot of money, and yeah, our politicians are going to do what they're paid to do. So it's sad. It's very sad. But yeah, this guy, again, not thinking clearly. Let's just put it that way. All right. Anyway, you guys, I will let you know when I hear more. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Please like, please share, and subscribe. Please donate if you can.
Yep. So you could see that, but here's the thing. Everybody knew things like this was going to happen at various polls in the country. And so this doesn't shock me, that people were out there trying to intimidate voters, stealing ballots, okay, and making threats. It was a very heated election cycle. The campaigns were brutal out there, and mostly because of Trump and how their campaign was handling things. So it was pretty bad. And excuse me. So yeah, I think everybody predicted that there was going to be some kind of shit going on where people were going to get arrested. But yeah, not a surprise. And it certainly does not equate to, oh, we should have a recount because of, a few things like this that popped up here and there in the country. All right. You need something bigger than that, more tangible than that. You got to have where somebody stumbles onto a box like 17 million votes that just suddenly, didn't get counted. Like he said, anything like that. But again, I go back to my argument to saying, even if they did find, this box of votes or something like that wasn't counted, it wouldn't matter anyway, because, Republicans are in too much control of everything in the country right now in the government. So that case would get pushed aside. And Kamala, conceded the election, and probably for that very reason, probably figuring that even if there was any, election stuff, there was no way she could fight that and win it. So, but we talk too much about that, the aftermath of it, and it's been a week, okay, and it's time to put that aside. Okay, we lost. Accept that. We lost a battle, but we didn't lose the war. Okay, we still got more elections coming up in a couple of years. We got the Senate and House races and stuff. We still can gain back some ground here. That's important. Also, I'm sure that in this interim here, before we transition to a new president, everybody is taking a position here in the government in D.C. about what are they going to do to put up firewalls against Donald Trump to keep him, under control, as it were, and to keep, the people he appoints in his cabinet under control. Because believe me, they're all going to be complicit here in anything bad that happens. Okay. They're all going to be guilty of it. Not just Trump, but everybody he appoints. Why do you think he's appointing only certain people that have nothing to do with politics and government? These are all wealthy idiots, donors and stuff like that, who probably know nothing about the offices they're going to sit in. But they're all there because they pledge their loyalty to Trump. They're yes man, okay? That's what they're there for. They're Trump's bitches that he's putting in office. It's like a goddamn gang, That's what he's putting in there. So as long as he's secure in the fact that these people aren't going to push back, he's going to feel emboldened to try to do what he wants. That's why we need that firewall. We need the military to be ready, okay, in case Trump tries to do something that just isn't right, And unfortunately, a lot of people are going to see that as, oh, this is a coup in the waiting. There's so many perspectives about that, I can't even tell you. All right. But the most important perspective is when you got a bad seed in your government, just like when Nixon was, don't you think that justifies a coup for the sake of the country, for the sake of democracy? Just because we're on the high ground doesn't mean we can't shed a little blood to maintain our foothold on the high ground. Okay? We shed a lot of blood in World War II to get rid of a jackass in Germany there that was trying to take over the world. Okay? Imagine the same scenario in this country. Just because it's in our government, we shouldn't do that because, oh, well, that's going to just create a coup. If they'd have had a coup in Germany, Hitler never would have been there. Okay? We wouldn't have had to fight a fucking World War II. That's my point. That's my perspective. There's nothing wrong with a coup for the right reason. When people do the wrong thing, someone or something has to intervene to do a corrective measure. All right? Because people don't always make the right choices. And we all know this now, don't we? Trump was not the right choice. He should not be becoming president for a second time. And those people that he is going to appoint in government, they shouldn't be there either. None of these people, nobody in this country knows any of these fuckers. Okay? Only Trump knows them. Doesn't that give you a little bit of a, I don't like that. You don't know any of these fucks. None of them. Okay? These are all elites, wealthy elites that are being positioned strategically within his administration, okay, with nobody vetting these people on the outside, Okay, it's only going to come after the fact, and when the press decides to get off its ass and talk about any of these folks and who they are and what they did and stuff. You know, in the meantime, we won't know anything about them until somebody gets arrested. They broke the law in some way, and then their name goes in the fucking newspaper, or Trump fires one of them or something like that. That's the only way we're going to ever know anything about these people, is when something like that happens. And that's too late to find that shit out, right? So shouldn't we know more about the people that work with the president? So, like I said, a coup can be a good thing, or it can be a bad thing, depending on who's doing it. It doesn't mean it's something that should be avoided, all right? Just because, you know, people that turns people's nose up. You know, a coup that has to remove Trump from doing something that could potentially kill millions of people would be a grateful coup. You know? But, you know, too many people think that's a bad thing, that Americans should never go down that road. Well, I've said this before. I know I keep repeating myself a lot. Governments aren't perfect. There's not a government on this planet that's the sunny side of life, okay? Every one of them has a problem, or few, or three, okay? Every government has problems. There's no perfect government. We're trying to make one if certain people would let it alone and let us get there. But the problem is not people are not perfect. So you got imperfect people trying to create a semi-perfect government. But because we have flawed people living in this government, we're always going to be struggling to get to the top. You know, it's like, you know, people climbing a rope to get to the top, and somebody at the bottom keeps yanking the rope, pulling it down, and you got more rope to keep. Okay? We got that. That's the problem we got trying to get to the top, is not everybody is on the same page here. All right? And the Republicans and MAGA are certainly not on the same page as the Democrats, okay, and progressives. They are not with us on this thing. So how do we get to the top with that kind of split? Well, the split now is much wider than it used to be. When I was born in '71, there was a divide beginning there. It was getting bad. But over the years, it's gotten so bad now. I mean, the Golden Gate Bridge couldn't cross that fucking gap. You know, you can't get there with these people. So, and I go back to that saying, a house divided can't stand. Well, also, you know, a country divided cannot evolve, because we're always going to be held back by people who want things their way. And what's the answer to that? Compromise. People have to come to the fucking middle. They gotta come to the middle. You got to, no matter how distasteful as that may seem to the Democrats or the Republicans, you have to come to the fucking middle. The middle ground is the answer. If people cannot compromise, if politicians cannot make deals and compromise, we have no hope. Okay? Kamala Harris basically unlocked the door for the Republicans. If they want to compromise with her, she's willing. Or she was willing. Okay? I could have told her that was folly. All right, because I've seen what MAGA is, what they do. They are as close-minded as people as you could get. They really are. They don't listen to anybody. And it's like Steve Shive said in the other video, you can't reason with these people. You're wasting your time trying to flip them to see your side of things. They will never, ever flip. Okay? Arrogance, stubbornness, stupidity. That's what permeates the extreme right wing, MAGA. Okay? Those people you can't reason with. So don't even try. I know sometimes they try to engage me with comments and stuff like that, but it's ridiculous. You know, I really don't have enough shits to give to anything they say. So I would just prefer they didn't comment. But if they want to, fine. But it ain't gonna. Probably won't even read it. But the thing is that this is what they do. And if you're going to do compromise, you know, you have to be the one to make the first move about that. Which means it would have been up to the Democrats to offer the meeting, to set up the meeting. If MAGA doesn't show, You can't say they didn't try, right? But you have to be able to compromise with these people. And I know people don't want to compromise with MAGA, okay? But, you know, if you give them something, you know, to say they got something, then maybe they might, you know, feel like, well, you know, maybe we can deal with this person, and then they might want to work with you more and give you something that you want, okay? Until the matter about Roe v. Wade is ever settled, I think in the meantime, the only thing we can hope for is that only some states have a ban and not all states, okay? I think that's the way it's going to have to be from now on until we figure out what the hell to do with Roe v. Wade, because for the next 4 years, I don't think we're going to see any change there with that now. So that's going to be the reality of the country, depending on what state you live in. I mean, you know, I don't know if they're going to implement a national ban. I really don't know, okay, because now that's possible. They could implement a national ban. And that may be up to the governors to decide if they want to enact it or not, depending on what state you live in. I don't know if they can even force that. But when it comes to the abortion issue like that, the only middle ground you could get to with them at this point is to allow the red states with their ban if they want it, okay? Because at least then people, you know, if they don't want to live there in those states, then they can up and leave. Go to another state, move somewhere else. I mean, what else can you do? I mean, I know the demands that MAGA has is a lot. You know, the tariff thing, that's a big thing. Because we're trying to save the economy, not cripple it. So putting tariffs up right now, I mean, I know Joe Biden wasn't eager to take down the tariffs that were there, but having them there didn't help us any either. Okay, and the farmers will back me on that, okay? The soybean farmers, they'll tell you what tariffs did to them. And so, you know, there's certainly a lot to consider there. But, you know, we have to, you know, to take the job of politics means you have to be serious about it. You can't be a grandstander like Marjorie Taylor Greene or Lauren Boebert. You can't be a grandstander where you've got to have the spotlight on you all the time because your ego is so small that you feel like if people aren't listening to me, I'm insignificant. Okay, these people don't present any solutions to anything. What they do is like what Trump does. They criticize. Okay, they attack, they insult. But nary do you ever hear a fucking answer or a solution to anything of the things that they talk about. Okay, because they don't have any, and they know that people would rather listen to people complaining than folks who, excuse me, I just got done eating. They'd rather listen to people bitch than to hear people talk about solutions. Because hearing somebody talk about solutions is so boring, you know. But when people complain, the country's in the gutter, crime is on the rise, you know, people are killing babies after they're born, folks are eating your pets. I mean, gaslighting people, that's what they do, you know. That's what people want to hear. They like that. On the other hand, hearing somebody talk about hopefulness and seeing the light at the end of the tunnel and better days and stuff like that, people don't believe in that as much as they used to. You know, people don't like to hear, you know, about something that'll happen because they don't think they'll live long enough to see it. Okay? But that's selfish thinking. You can't always think of yourself when you're talking about politics. You have to think about your children. What are you going to hand them off, you know, when you die? Right now, what we're giving our children and grandchildren is not very, very good. Okay, we pretty much ruined the planet for the foreseeable future. All right, and that's going to be on their backs to have to live in, because we couldn't get ourselves off of fossil fuels and all that stuff because, hey, we don't want to think of any other way to power our lives. That's too much work. Okay, and certainly the wealthy oil barons and stuff like that aren't going to want you to think that either. So they're going to keep you sucking down that fucking on that tit of goddamn oil for the rest of your life, and that's the way they want to do it, okay? They got you thinking there's plenty of oil to go around. We don't know that. You know, they don't know that either, okay? They don't know that either. And the fact is everybody's, you know, trying to hoard the oil, and everyone's trying to raise the price of gas to maximize as much profit as they can get out of it, and nobody complains. Okay, what they are complaining about is the cost of food. Okay, well, my friends, I know you're going to hate to hear this, but if you're having a hard time making ends meet now with food, you're going to have a harder time coming once Trump gets in office next year and starts his fucking economic plans. Elon Musk already told you, the jackass, and I'm sure Trump probably berated him for it, but he told everybody flat out there's going to be misery coming, okay? He was talking about the economy. It's going to be tough at first. Well, okay, well, I can agree to him up to that point, okay? But I don't think it's going to get better until after Trump is gone, okay? Until after we get a Democrat back into the White House, and then things will improve, just like what happened the last time when Trump left and we had Biden and things started to get better. We're going to have to replay that all over again. It's like a needle stuck on the record that keeps skipping back, skipping back. We're going to have to do that again, okay? We got to prove to people that Trump was a failure the first time and it wasn't a fluke. He's still a failure because he will fail again. And the Democrats are going to have to come to the rescue to put out the fire. All right, that's what's going to happen. That's what I'm predicting, and I'm thinking that in 2 years we're already going to be ready for that, that next election, and people are going to hand power over to the Democrats because the Republicans will have fucked it up so bad. Okay, MAGA and all of them are going to have created such a mess in this country by then that people. They're going to be on the streets protesting until that fucking election happens for the midterms, and that's what I predict is going to happen. You know, it's sad because it creates so much unrest in this country when people are struggling, working 2-3 jobs, and they feel like they've got no time to voice their opinion to anybody. Because they're exhausted. They come home from work, they don't have time to think about. I was talking to somebody, not too long ago, who didn't really want to talk about politics or anything like that, because he's too damn busy, with his job, and it's too depressing. For some reason, he predicted that Kamala would lose, and I didn't believe it, but he knew better. He knew better. He knew that Kamala wasn't going to win because he understood this country in a better way than I did. He knew how misogynistic and racist this country was, all right? And that the Democrats choosing her was probably a mistake because, it was a black woman instead of a white man. But, who can tell? Who could tell how that would have ended up? She didn't lose by a landslide loss, okay? Trump didn't win by a landslide. So, she did gain some popularity there. But, whether or not misogyny had anything to do with that or not, who can say? I do know that there's just as many racists and misogynists in the Democrat Party as you might find in the Republican Party. Okay, and I go back to the election between Trump and Hillary, and how so many people, so many guys mostly didn't like Hillary, that when Bernie Sanders was knocked off the ticket, basically, a lot of Democrats vowed they weren't going to vote that election. That's how Trump got it. I mean, despite the Russian collusion, okay, the fact that the Democrats did that during their convention didn't help them any. Who knows? They might have had a better chance if they'd have left Bernie alone, and he could have ran. But no. So, like I said, there is some degree of racism and misogyny that probably played into people not voting for her, especially some Democrats. But if people would have come out in force that were, Democrats and huge numbers, she'd have won this thing. okay? Because she didn't lose by a lot, you know. I don't know. All I know is it's more important now to focus on a game plan to get to those midterms, okay? We got to look to that. That's going to be our salvation for the next 2 years after what he's done. If we can get control of the houses back, then they can oppose him and anything else that he does. You know, we make him a lame duck president for the next 2 years after that, okay? And after that, he's gone. He can't run again after that, okay? So let's look to that and stay hopeful, okay? I know we've suffered a big loss here, okay? But you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs, okay? So, anyway, I'll talk to you all again another time, so please subscribe, comment, and share, and keep your ears open for health matters, and treat each other good out there. You know, don't step on other people's toes. Try to enjoy the upcoming holidays and avoid stress when necessary. So I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.